Welcome to Scanners Offline, a Drop Fleet podcast by Matt,
Will, and JJ.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Scanners Offline. Hope you're all okay out there in Drop Fleet world. We have quite a focused episode for you this week. And you want to welcome back Will, who has returned from... It's not finished, but Will is back. Hello, Will.
Hello, I'm back. For a while anyway.
So how's it going with the cows and the sheep?
Fine. many lambs and a few calves. Still in the process of making babies, as they say.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking time out to come and do a little bit.
That's fine.
Nice to have you back for a little bit. So this episode we are going to do a little bit of news. We've got news of our own about a new tournament. We have a small bit of news from TT Combat about a little release that's useful but nice. War stories. Me and JJ are going to talk about Tlalacon. That was last weekend for us. JJ's wincing slightly. That might give you a clue about how that went for him. You might hear that I'm smiling. That might give you a clue about how it went for me. And then we're still going to stay focused with Tlalacon, and in White Sphere Wisdom we're going to take a focused look at the top 5 lists from Tlalacon, because they're all lists by quite experienced players. They're quite interesting. We'll talk about the tactics we think went into making them, and if me and JJ saw them on the field, we'll talk about how they did and whether that played out. Right, we're going to start off with the news. The news, the bit where we talk about new goings-on in the Drop Fleet world. Okay, into the news. So, Will, I think we've had a small release from TT Combat. What have they been giving us at the moment?
Yes, very nicely. Thank you, TT. They have released the bases, both small and large, for those that are asking. I'm not going to take the credit for spotting this. This was spotted by Jeffrey Doty, who very kindly has shared this on Facebook, so hopefully most of you know about this already, but this is news as we're recording this. Doesn't look like it comes with the widgets, but it looks like it comes with the flight stands.
Interesting. So I didn't really know this was something that was in demand by players. I mean, my immediate thought is perhaps space station conversions. People might need them for.
And Corvette conversions as well. I know a lot of people are building their own Corvettes, and obviously, if you're building your own Corvettes, you're not going to have the bases with them, are you?
Corvette, that's a good point actually. Corvette conversions, yeah. So I had bought enough Scourge that I had enough spare bases, just about. But you're right. If you wanted to just make your own Corvettes and you hadn't bought a silly amount of Drop Fleet like I had, then you might not necessarily have all those spare bases. That's a good point. I would like to see Void Gate packs. I think that'd be a good idea, TT.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Even if they're in resin and a bit more expensive, just be nice to not have to buy cruiser boxes.
Yeah, I'd certainly be happy to get a sprue, with just void gates on. It's definitely something that's disproportional at the moment with the box sets where you get 3 cruisers and you only get 3 void gates. You need more than that, in my opinion. You know, a lot of fleets, Shaltari at the moment, the turn up have 3, 4, 5 cruisers and have 10, 12 void gates. You need more than one per cruiser in a fleet.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see. Hopefully something we'll see in the future, a future release. It's one of those things that just would make sense, wouldn't it, to have that for the benefit of all Shaltari players. Not that we want to benefit them too much.
Yeah,
they are horrible people.
It could just be a punishment for playing Shaltari. You have to buy extra cruiser boxes.
Just to wring more money out of the best faction.
Yeah.
Right, moving on. If our editor could at this point insert a drum roll. There it is. She probably did it. I don't know. Maybe. We'll find out. We have come to the time where we are doing a new tournament by Scanners Offline. Woo!
Yay!
And Redditch Wargaming Society.
Yes, a collaboration between Redditch Wargaming Society, Scanners Offline, and our hosts, Worcester Wargames, where we are having it again. So, you may have been somebody who attended Midlands Maelstrom in the past. You may have heard about it. I certainly posted enough times about it that I probably started to annoy people back in October of last year. But we are doing it again because it has been 6 months and we always planned for it to be biannual. So we are going again. And already we've got brilliant prize support flooding in. We've had loads of people buy tickets straight away. I'm worried we might actually sell out. I'm not just saying this as like a selling tool. I think the number of interested people we have on the Facebook group, compared to the number of spaces and tickets we have left, there's a lot more people who are interested than there are tickets left. So we're currently at how many tickets sold, JJ?
You put me on the spot now. I don't know, 'cause I didn't prepare
I think it was 13. 13 tickets sold so far.
There was 13 downers going on Facebook, and I think it was like 11 or 12 that had actually bought tickets, but the two didn't necessarily match up, so there were a few people saying they're going on Facebook that haven't actually bought a ticket yet.
Great, yeah.
So, it's about 15 probably, and out of 28?
Yes, yeah, we're saying 28 capacity to start with.
Yeah.
There is possibility for a larger venue. We are negotiating, but for now we are going to say 28. So make sure, if you are interested, that you get your ticket as soon as you can. Don't leave it till later.
Well, if they buy them now, if we sell out, will be a lot easier for us to expand and find a larger location if we need to. That won't be very far away from where it's currently.
No, it's literally just around the corner. We've got a potential extra spillover venue. Yeah, so we're going to have loads of prizes. We've got unique items being made by our contacts in Red Warsock to hand out to all players. So you're making the effort to come, you're going to get something nice and unique out of it.
Yes, I'm going to get something.
Yes, even JJ's going to get something. And I've seen the prototypes. They're very cool. I'm not going to reveal what they are just yet, but when we've got one finalised, I will put that up on the Scales Offline page. Will, excited about this? You've been writing a list already.
Well, you say writing a list. It's my casual fun list. Just going to be up to a little bit for tournament play.
So not going to have 3 Blairfons?
No. I don't do net lists
That's
unlike
good.
other people. But cough cough.
Going to ignore all this subtle hinting. We'll come to this later. So the torpedo list, right, for BHR?
Yeah. So, are we going to talk about your experimental rules?
I think all we'll say for now is that I have made and released this week a new tournament pack, which will be used at Midlands Maelstrom, and it has 3 new scenarios, and it has 2 new approach types, and the scoring is adjusted, and basically tried to tidy up and fix all the bits that I think could be improved in the current tournament pack. It is unofficial. TT know about it, but I would like them to kind of say, like, yeah, that's great, you go ahead.
You want the Dave stamp of approval?
Yeah, I even went. I asked them, could you pass it on to Dave, please? Like, imagining that it was just someone in the office in TT would sort of turn around and go, "Hey, Dave, some fan thinks he knows better. Like, he's made something of his own. Can you just tell him that it's rubbish?" And just like hand it over to Dave.
We're still waiting, Dave.
Yeah, please.
So there's that. There's a new tournament pack, and also we did some experimental rules as well. Some rules errata changes and updates. We've put all this on the Facebook page. We are going to talk about those changes in detail in the next episode. So we'll leave that for now.
The only reason I mention that is because you're boosting torpedoes slightly in your experimental rules, which we may or may not make it because we're going to play test hopefully.
We will.
Other people will play test for us. But I'm just wanting to say this because I've written my list before I knew about these changes, and it has 4 torpedoes in it. So.
Let me guess. A pair of Achilles and a battleship?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. A Minos, right?
Yeah, because I've played it a few times casual, and it's quite a very different playstyle from what I normally do, and it's quite an interesting playstyle that you need, involving lots of cagey play and lots of actual using all your high strategy ratings to score with, instead of killing everything and dying horribly in the process, which is how the way I normally play.
Nice alternative to PHR launch lists too.
Yeah.
Don't know why they're so popular.
It'd be interesting to see how it matches up against the heavy launch list, because I'm not sure it'll play very well against it, but we'll see. You never know. I just need to play test it more.
We'll see. So that is our big news, Midlands Maelstrom. We haven't even said the date of it. JJ, when is it?
It is Saturday, the 28th of April,
and
2018.
Where is that in relation to Salute? Because we planned this very carefully. So I keep asking you questions you're not ready for.
Putting JJ on the spot
without
warning him.
Like, at least tell me in the agenda, like. I don't know. It's like 4 weeks or something. 2 weeks.
Salute's the 14th of April.
Okay, so it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, we've put it deliberately 2 weeks after Salute. We imagined that a lot of you might be able to get permission from partners to go to Salute. But then if, say, Maelstrom was the next week, I think partners might be saying, "What? You are not going to a whole weekend away, 2 weekends in a row." So we put it 2 weeks apart for that reason.
Yeah, also, quite a few of the people within Red Warsock will probably attend Salute as well. So, obviously initially, we've got a good base of Drop Fleet players at Red Warsock, and, if half of those were going to be at Salute, then we've already lost half our own user base.
Yeah, we wanted Maelstrom to be a standalone event that people could just come to just for it. And of course, to see the wonderful city of Worcester. Recommend staying over.
Yay.
You can see
Come out for a drink with us, to drown your sorrows or celebrate your wins.
What a lovely sentiment, like that.
Just
Drowning
go
your sorrows
to
with
France.
JJ.
I'll be in the corner crying over a pint.
Right. That's quite a long news segment. Let's move on to War Stories. War Stories, the bit where we talk about battles that we've had. So last weekend we had a road trip. Went down to Bournemouth, Battle for Tlalacon, which was organised by Adam Cox and George McStocker. Really good thanks to them for organising a great event. And it was taking place during Beachhead 2018, which is what I gather the South Coast's kind of games con. Really good to see that going on. Didn't have a lot of time to go and do anything with it, because obviously a drop fleet tournament takes up a lot of time. You've got sort of half an hour quick breaks in between.
We did well for time though, to be fair.
We did actually, and that in part was to Adam two factors. I think setting it as 2.5 hours games, I think, and also that all of us are quite experienced players there, so we all were able to finish to turn 6. Almost all finished to turn 6 every game.
Yeah, 2 out of my 3 games were to turn 6.
So War Stories is just going to talk about our favourite bits and moments, just briefly. So you may have seen the table up. It is somewhere down in the Drop Fleet community Facebook page. I put it up a little while ago, along with a full list of all the lists that were taken. We'll talk about that in a minute in White Sphere Wisdom. But for now, JJ, overall impressions of Tlalacon?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good old drive down to Bournemouth from for us up in Redditch from Worcestershire anyway. So yeah, that wasn't great on a Friday night. That said, got there, great pub there, absolutely top notch.
I notice how you're not talking about the tournament, JJ.
I'm getting there.
I have the feeling that it didn't go quite as well as you were hoping.
Stop interrupting me, Will. Great hotel, brilliant parking. That's another story for later. Yeah, I mean, the tournament was fun. Everybody I played, great, very sporting. It was good to see so many painted fleets on the tabletop. Some of those debris markers. I think George.
Yeah, George makes them.
Were spectacular, to be honest. Very jealous. Good job there, George. Didn't go so well for the UCM. Especially not my UCM. Chris Lobozinski did do a bit better, a few places higher.
I think 6th, yeah.
But the 2 UCM players there in the kind of bottom third quarter of the table.
Luke was 9th and you were 10th. And then Chris was 6th, so yeah, you were all in the bottom.
Wasn't Luke...
Luke was 1 higher than you. I have it up in front of me.
So, I don't think it was a great result for UCM as a faction. I think it highlights a few weaknesses with them as a faction. That obviously your errata and stuff is seeking to try and improve, but we'll come back to that in the next episode. I enjoyed my games. I was spectacularly unlucky, and my opponents were average or lucky, as well as playing well. I'm not knocking their ability. They didn't. It wasn't that they weren't good players. Or, all 3 of my opponents were good players. First being Adam Cox himself with his Shaltari. It's just my luck. Every tournament I get first game Shaltari. The last 3 it's been the same. It's good to get the hard one out of the way first, I suppose. Adam played really well. He knows his fleet well. It was a nice little showcase for me as a budding Shaltari player. More about that later. his fleet looks amazing. He knows what he's doing with it as well. He did get lucky as well, so he played well and he was lucky. I don't think I've ever played anyone at Drop Fleet that's got the right command cards at the right moment like he did. He literally drew the perfect command card every turn. It was amazing. Whereas I got like the most useless cards that were just. Well, I could have done with like an espionage for the first 4 turns, would have been brilliant.
So, just out of interest for people listening, what cards did you pick as the UCM player and immediately think, oh god, this is just not useful to me right now at all?
So, in like the first couple of turns, when you get ones that are like fire an extra weapon or re-roll hits with your mass drivers or getting a +1 attack for your mass drivers, for the first 2 turns with UCM against Shaltari, I'm just getting peppered for the first turn, and then the second turn stuff starts dying, and then the third time I'm like, oh yeah, I can shoot you now.
I've got nothing left by that point.
Yeah, most of my decent stuff is kind of like knackered or limping away, hiding. I mean, there are. I feel like the UCM command card deck is a little weak by comparison, and it's not that they don't have good cards. Don't get me wrong. Getting a free Rio or Toulons is brilliant. There are some good cards in there. The double tap with the burn through laser, another good card. The problem is they're quite case specific. I find a lot of the other decks have cards that are more useful more often. So it gives it allows you to go through your deck a bit faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I don't want to dwell on that too long.
The other 2 games?
Yeah, so really good game against Adam. He completely devastated me. Like the score was, I got points in that, and it was still a 20-0, I think.
It was a 20-0, yeah.
It was a 20-0.
So the difference was so great that it still ended up being 20-0, even though I had victory points at the end, and that was only because I'd killed some things and like captured one cluster, my home cluster. So good game, good job for Adam. My second game was against Michael with his PHR. The scenario he played in the deployment type didn't really favour him because his battleship ended up coming on turn 3 because it was distant. So that didn't do him any favours really. But he played well, and again, my lovely double tap type A group managed to come on die before firing a shot, as it did for all 3 games.
So this was a tactic you went in with, wasn't it? To take a group of 3 type A's, 4 type A's, sorry. Take a group of 4 type A's and do a last turn, first turn activation. Which it should be a good theory, but I think everyone you played probably knew that was a dangerous plan and then went out of their way to stop you doing it.
So what went wrong? What stopped that from working?
So in game 1 they got killed by Topaz, so I boosted them on between 2 debris fields, kind of centralish, so diagonally, and I'd underestimated how the reach of the Topaz, so those 4 Topaz were then able to go normal speed, scan me and shoot them, which then crippled half of the Type A's, and he finished them off in the following turn with something else. But it basically reduced their combat effectiveness down to.
So you hadn't brought the Type A's on the last, then you brought them on. So
it was a Topaz group 4, so they were
both the same SR, and you just lost the roll off.
So in the second game against Michael, it was the Echoes managed to get in there and devastate them. Again, underestimated their reach because they're faster because they're Corvettes.
So, not a lot faster. They're only 12 inches, aren't they?
They're the slowest Corvette.
Yeah. And the third game against Ian's, he had Jin, I think. I can't really remember what killed them, to be honest, but they definitely died having not fired a shot. So in all 3 games where I last activated, first activated, they did nothing. I honestly would rather have taken my 2 Madrids.
Even with Station Assault as a scenario.
Yeah, because they would have survived longer. The Type A's, because they were just dying when they got crippled, the Madrids would have stayed in there longer and could have helped me score or just gone weapons free. So it's one of those things. Live and learn. All 3 were tough games for me. All 3 players were experienced. All 3 good fleets. I was exceptionally unlucky with my rolling. I couldn't roll for Toffee, but it's just one of those things. Sometimes that happens.
It happens sometimes. Everyone goes through a tournament like that.
For me, it seems to happen more often than not these days, but never mind. We can cry about that later.
So can you play like a sad violin right now?
From the world's smallest violin. No, I don't want to take anything away from the three people I played. They all played well. All knew what they were doing. I made a few mistakes, like the Type A's. I definitely could have done that better with a bit more practice. I'd never tried that before, so that was my first attempt at trying to use them. Clearly a failed attempt. But you know what? Next time, it might go differently.
But next tournament, you will be bringing...
Maybe Shaltari.
There we go.
Only because in our Red Water Escalation League, I've been doing better with them than I've done with my UCM.
A lot better. You're third at the moment out of 12.
So I feel like they match my playstyle a bit better than the UCM do. They my natural strategies and tactics tend to fit with them a bit better than what UCM does, just naturally, for whatever reason. So, give them a try out.
Cool. Right. My turn. War stories. So, yeah, I really liked the event as well. It was really well run. I liked that all the players were very experienced. Everyone there had been to a tournament before, which was great. So it made it like quite an elite pool of players. It was only 10 players, but everyone there was experienced.
Yeah, everyone there had been to another tournament. Even Tony, who was probably our most junior drop fleet player,
had still been to a tournament.
Tournament before. So yeah, it was good. Everyone kind of, there wasn't really that much slow play, which I think we struggled with in previous tournaments.
Yeah, well, the further back you go, the less experienced everybody is with drop fleet. I enjoyed all my games immensely.
Why is that, Matt?
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I wonder what happened to make you enjoy your games so much.
Well, I spent a lot of time organising drop fleet. I spent a lot of time introing people. And
so it's nice to spend some time crushing people.
When I have chance at a tournament to finally play, let's say, unfettered, it is satisfying to put as much tactical thought and sort of as much effort as I possibly can into playing as hard as I can. And it is satisfying to do that. And it's satisfying to do it against difficult opponents too. Michael Russell's a really good player. We played pretty much exactly the repeat of our top table final game at Warball. Same scenario. I was just using his list and he had changed his list slightly. And yeah, I will talk about my list in a bit, but that was a really good game. And fair play to Michael, he hadn't played any drop fleet since our game previously. So he played me and then played me again 3 months later. And that's his next drop fleet game. That went well. Then
you played two of the same people as me. You played Adam and Michael, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Who was your other game against?
I played George in the final game. Yeah. So I played Adam second against Shaltari. Always tricky. I was slightly thankful that we were playing it on the distance scenario, which is mixed engagement. So that meant I knew I wouldn't have to deal with the diamond coming on until turn 3. That helped.
And say Shaltari gonna have a diamond, needs to big chunk of their fleet's coming on turn 3.
The slight advantage that they've got, I think, with that is that yes, the diamond's coming on turn 3, but because it's got such better range and you're so much closer, it's coming on turn 3 and it can probably shoot stuff immediately.
There is that. It's true.
Because you're closer and he's got a scan range, so.
I spent most of the time hiding on the right-hand side of the board in as much debris as I could. It did also affect me because I had an SR20 group. So I did also not get that group on until turn 3 as well. That was the closest score margin. So that was the trickiest game against Adam for me. Just kind of my list tended to pull away in turns 5 and 6. Turn 4 I was often level or slightly behind, and then turn 6 when I was closer, I could make the launch count and like finish off loads of things in turns 5 and 6 and sort of scoop up all the critical locations. That was a pattern.
Yeah, it seems to happen with launch lists. They sort of start getting away and doing a lot of damage unless all the carriers have been killed, in which case they lose horribly.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the trick to beating launch lists, is to get in close and just kill them as quickly as possible before the damage starts adding up to your ships and you lose the ability to kill their ships before they launch. Yeah,
from my point of view, if I've been able to remove my opponent's launch by turn 4, then turns 5 and 6 went very strongly in my favour. And then final list against George, me and George had a brilliantly, headachingly tactical game in Cardiff when I pitted my Scourge against his UCM. in Moonshot, and that was a really really fun game and a really very, very tactical game. So I enjoy playing George a lot. I know from his blog that he didn't enjoy the fact that he'd been drawn against me. But,
It's alright, George. It happens to the best of us.
We all
live next door to the guy.
We all have to play that at some point.
I know Scourge very well, which means that I know Scourge's weaknesses very well, and I just sort of use that. Station Assault was not a good game for that Scourge force to play my PHR because, it just a lot of the troop ships had to be a bit more exposed. The Chimera. I liked his tactics of he did bomb some of the stations before I could get to them, and he told me after it was like a scorched earth denial. He was like, right, I'm not going to get to that one. I'm just going to blow that station up. And like launch.
I'm just going to kill everything, and then you can't score any victory points.
I was like, fair play.
Ian did the same thing to me in the last scenario. When the only point I had left was the station on my side, with ground troops on it. He just blew it away. I can't blame the guy because I would have done the same thing.
Was that like
it was cruel?
You'd lost like all your ships, and
all I had was ground assets. I had no ships left.
So the entire Scourge, like the
5
UCM,
and 6, I just had ground assets.
just like those poor UCM troopers who'd like been dropped on the station by and then watched all of their fleet get decimated, and then watching the Scourge fleet coming towards them, being like, guys, I think we should step away from the windows.
Yeah,
things are getting a bit hot here.
Heroically firing their assault rifles in the hope of
firing into the void
before the space station explodes.
But no, that George, he did as well as I think he could have done. Really, it's just I just knew what to do to beat that Scourge list. It's one that I've run very similar lists to that. And I know that you just need to remove the Chimera and the Hydra, and then you're pretty much off and away against it. So it went well. Enjoyable tournament. Right, let's move on. We're going to talk about the lists specifically that we used, talk about tactics behind them, a bit of an in-depth look during White Sphere Wisdom. White Sphere Wisdom, the bit where we talk about issues relevant to the Drop Fleet community, Tactica, and any questions from you. Alright listeners, we are going to do a focused look and breakdown at just the top three lists of Tlalacon. So just having a look at what I don't like using the word meta, but just like what people are bringing to tournaments right now and what's doing well. Perhaps if you are a newer Drop Fleet player, and we know we've got people who are listening who are newer players who've been in contact, then this is something perhaps you could build towards imitating this list, taking elements of it, and we're going to talk about why certain parts of it work, what the thinking is behind that list building, because I know coming into Drop Fleet, sometimes it might not be obviously apparent why players are putting certain ships in certain groups and making the SR a certain value and so on. So, not going to assume anything, I think, on behalf of listener knowledge. We're going to start with third place. That was Adam Cox's Shaltari list. Do you guys want to go through it?
Yeah, I'll go through it if you want.
Just to list it through first.
Yeah, so he's got 4 launch assets, which are coming from Basalt, which I'll go through the list and tell you where everything is. So, Surprise to Rise being Shaltari. He's got a flag group with a diamond in. He's got a Star Chief in there, so it's an AV4 Admiral, so he's getting 4 command cards a turn once the diamond's on the table.
Which you would expect, because a battleship makes that cheaper.
Yeah, so it's the most powerful battleship in the game, really, so unsurprisingly it's in there. Then he's got 2 Void Gates with that, which I don't think I've seen before. I don't think I've seen anyone bring Void Gates with a diamond. I can kind of see why it's been done.
I get it, because you might as well, if it's going to be SR15, you know it's going to
push it up that little bit more and stick some Void Gates in there, save boosting up and a strategy rating of a different group.
I think that's a good tactic. I suppose you've got to think about them coming on in distant approach. You'd lose that. You wouldn't get those Void Gates till turn 3.
That's true. Not
Possible
sure if it'll be a problem if you play around it a little bit.
The only issue I can see with doing that is that you might then lose out on activation against another battleship. So somebody else coming on with an SR15 battleship might be able to get a shot off on you first. Obviously, looking at ranges, it's probably unlikely unless you active scanned the diamond or it's got shields up or something, but it could happen.
Yeah. Keep going with the list.
So next Next group down in his list is a SR10 line battle group with 2 ambers in it. I can't remember what the amber does. JJ, remind me.
So they're your gun cruisers. They're kind of the Sheltari version of a Rio. So they're the front side guns. So you've got a front side left and a front side right gun.
Disintegrator, isn't it?
They're the four dice 3-up shots.
Yeah,
that's. I know the facts about what they roll. I just couldn't quite remember the name of them.
Yeah, it's one of those. But it's the 4 dice hitting on 3 up on either side. So if they go weapons 3, it's 8 dice hitting on 3s.
Each with a pair.
So there's 2 of them. So if they both went weapons 3, and you're fortunate to be in front of it, that's 16 3-ups.
They're a very popular cruiser for Sheltari right now. You are very common to see 2 ambers in a list. It's proven over and over again.
Pretty nasty battle group. Only weakness I would say is layers. If someone manages to be in the wrong layer, and you can't go weapons 3 then, because you lose quite a lot of firepower with that +1 to lock.
I've used this exact tactic against JJ and his 2 ambers.
It's one I use a lot against Sheltari. Is just change layer. Just be in the wrong layer all the time. To stop out weapons 3.
I mean, I think staggering them. So if you've got a group of 2 ambers, having one in high and one in low, it allows you to. One of them can always go weapons 3. One of them can change.
With our new rules, that will be +1 to SR, but that's not really a big deal to go to 11.
It's not an issue really.
No.
Might be an issue if you're fighting another cruiser group and you want to shoot before them. So
that's the point of the change, I suppose. To give you something extra to think about.
Yeah. Next, we have SR9 line battle group, which is a single emerald and 4 void gates. For those, SR9 is probably so it comes in on turn 1 in distant.
Yeah, that looks planned to me.
Which pretty much is how it's built the battle group around that, I think. Emerald, you need emerald. Void gates, you need void gates. Next group is a repeat, so 1 emerald, 4 void gates. Same thing.
They're pretty self-explanatory. This group is it's Sheltari's way of dropping, so you would expect to see 2 emeralds and a load of void gates in a Sheltari list.
Yeah. You used to see people putting all their void gates in a Pathfinder squadron. I think people have moved on now and are sticking them with the emeralds.
I prefer to have them with their emeralds because then you can arrange the chain there and then and sort it, And
you want to save your Pathfinder squadrons for lower strategy rating frigates if you can fit them in and stuff like that.
As we can see in this list.
Yeah. So our next battle group is a SR7 Pathfinder. This could also be a line battle group. It's sort of doesn't matter which way around it is. It's a single basalt and 2 topaz. Basalt is your fleet carrier, if I'm correct.
Yeah, launch 4.
Yeah.
And it's got front narrow shot.
Yeah, and the topaz is.
They're kind of like your.
They've got 2 3-up shots each.
Yeah. 2 3-up shots. So I imagine in this list, those 2 topazes probably so that 1 can active scan.
Oh
I
yes,
imagine.
I can.
That was used against you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yay! I know my tactics. So I imagine this is just a sit at the back battle group. Probably hold a critical location somewhere. If your emeralds are not holding it for you, so you can send your emeralds off somewhere and hide them.
I would certainly be using those 2 topaz for active scanning. That's what it looks like to me. And then the last group.
Final battle group is an SR4. It's another Pathfinder group, and it's 4 topaz. I imagine these are to attempt to at least parity activate Jin and your UCM close action Type A's. I get Type A's and 2 Dons confused. And try and beat them and try and knock them down a bit before they get to emeralds.
Yeah, this is your double tap group. That's trying to Alpha Strike. Is that Alpha Strike?
Yeah, Alpha Strike. Certainly not Beta Strike.
Because they're coming in last on turn 1, activate first, turn 2, and deleting something.
Well, I mean, you say deleting. I mean, they're a scary little group because 4 of them together can put out in the front arc, I believe, together 8 3-up shots. That's enough to you got a good chance of doing decent damage to a cruiser.
Crippling a cruiser, maybe.
With a double tap, certainly. A last turn, first turn activation, I think you would go for the crippling cruiser.
Personally, I imagine these are probably more for defense against other people double tapping you. So, because your emeralds are very, very important, you don't want them double tapped. So you use this. I think possibly you might want an SR3 if you were specifically doing it for this. But then an SR3 close action group might be more harder to do damage.
This happened exactly in our game, actually. Me and Adam had a bit of shadow boxing chess moves with this, because I brought my Medeas on in low orbit and moved them up. Maybe max thrust them slightly just to get within range of the middle. And
you have to max thrust a Medea, unfortunately, to get it into range of the middle.
Then the Topaz came on fast to threaten them next turn, and they were in a lower activation group. So then I brought on my Echoes with the same strategy rating to threaten the Topaz in return. So if the Topaz took the Medea, he would lose the Topaz to the Echoes. Or there's a chance that I'd be able to get the activation in there. But yeah, it's a solid Shaltari list, and I think typical of what you see for Shaltari at the moment. But yeah, it's very solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to the list that I plan on taking as well. I'm not entirely convinced on the Topaz groups yet, but I'm toying with the idea and testing a few things out. But it's very similar to what I'll be taking, probably to Midlands Maelstrom too.
Right, moving on to second. So Chris Rogers' Scourge. I think Chris is going to win a tournament soon. I think he's one of our best Red Warsock players.
It's probably due.
It's just like someone keeps getting in the way of him winning tournaments. It's weird. Like it's got to happen eventually. You'd have thought. And so I'll run through his list. I'll take the Scourge one. So he has we've got 2 SR10 Vanguard groups. Now this is nice. I do like this straight away. We've got 2 a Basilisk and an Akuma. Now normally you would see the 1 Basilisk. That's typical in a Scourge fleet list because it's so much better than a Manticore or either of the Scourge battleships. Right now we are looking to change that. Yeah. But to take 2 of them, I've dabbled with this idea, and then thought that I maybe had to compromise in too many other areas for the points.
Just to be clear, an Akuma is a Basilisk, isn't it? It's just a different model. It's the same rules, same everything.
So the Basilisk is the original Kickstarter one,
yeah,
and the Akuma is the new one.
Yeah,
both are brilliant looking models.
I think the new one's nicer. I mean, I have the old one, but I think
do like the new one. I think the new one. It almost made me want to start a Scourge fleet.
Sexy model, that is. Now, 2 of them in 2 separate groups. They're SR10. That's as quick as they possibly can be. And we know what Basilisks do. They've got the 8, 3-up block, double damage shots that converge in the front arc, with Scald.
And Cloak. Cloak being the most important part of that.
And the full
Cloak. You can Wecker 3,
yes.
Active Scan, Course Change, all of those fun things, and never gain the spike that everyone else does.
Until you're crippled.
Until you're crippled.
And if you're crippled, you're probably going to die that turn anyway.
Yeah.
But that is a serious amount of firepower for opponents to try and avoid. And a really obvious threat. That's going to draw attention onto them. And your opponent's probably not going to be looking at the other ships and movements, hopefully, like the next group with the Chimera. So we have an SR8 line group with a Chimera and 3 Gargoyles. That's pretty obvious what that's going to do.
Yeah. Drop troops.
My advice for Chimera for new Scourge players is do not send it to the middle ever. Send Gargoyles to the middle. Send the Chimera on a nice long trip around the outside, picking up clusters. And just if Chimera's in the middle, just die immediately. So they've got too big a signature. If they've got to drop things off in the middle, they're going to die. So send them to the edges. Then he's still, even having 2 battle cruisers, Chris has still managed to fit in the double Hydra as well. Beginning to see why this list finished so highly.
Double Hydra and double Basilisk. I feel like you shouldn't be able to fit that in 1250 points, personally. But I can see. I have faced double Hydra, played by you, Matt.
Yes.
That did not go well.
It's like this brings cheesy list.
The problem being that when you finally get that Hydra into range to shoot at it, you don't have to deal with the fact it's got normal close action, and the 2 of them together can just delete a ship.
Well, not often something that's picked up on, but 2 Hydras together put out 2d6 plus 4 3-ups for close action with Scald. Yeah. So that could cripple a cruiser by itself, let alone the fact that you would then be in short range of the horrible launch that also has Scald. So I think if you remove 1 Hydra quite early on, then you're setting yourself up better. If you can
trick them into launching against something and gaining that minus spike and then just deleting a Hydra, that seems to be the trick to doing it, because obviously they've got that slightly higher signature.
Presumably, though, if you've committed to attacking the Hydra, you've probably exposed yourself to one of the 2 battlecruisers. which is somewhat the issue,
Yeah.
I suppose.
If there's only one battle cruiser, you can do it and avoid, but 2 battle cruisers, you're not going to avoid.
They're going to cover a lot of fire arc, aren't they, on the battlefield? Then we've got the 4 Skiller in a group. Now, I talked to Chris a lot, actually. We talked about Scourge tactics a lot at Road War Sock, and he toyed with the idea of taking Jin. And then he had some down games with him in the Escalation League and decided to go with, quite late on, to go with Skiller instead. Now, these are the submerge into atmosphere, fire up velocity guns. And they're really effective because your opponent has to kind of go down and kill them with corvettes. They're not going to have much luck unless they're PHR with light broadsides, pinking them out from low orbit.
Or you're wasting corvettes trying to take them out instead of taking out strike carriers.
Exactly.
Probably ideal for you. It's like what you want them to do. I feel like in this list, that's a good move because the 2 Basilisks are probably going to be eating up all your early activations.
Yeah, they will.
So you can have these Skiller just go last, boss in atmosphere and shoot at something.
For me, that group is the one question mark of this list. I really like the list. It's quite similar to if I was going to build a Scourge list. This is kind of very similar to what I would go with. I feel like if it had been me, I would have gone for the Jin rather than the Skiller because I can see how they're effective, but there's just raw damage output from the Jin is just so much bigger than what the Skiller can do.
I think Chris's reasoning was that he found that he would kill a cruiser with the Jin, but then the Jin would then die. Yeah.
Whereas the Skiller live longer.
The Skiller, he thinks, over time of a whole game, actually did more damage output because 4 of them will put out 8 3-up shots over the whole game, and if they can get down to atmosphere in turn 2, presumably, they could potentially doing that for 5 turns. 5 turns, just getting 8 3-up shots, 8 3-up shots, and they take advantage of SIG, so they've got longer range with them. But I get your point. Jin are fantastically, satisfyingly, immediately destructive. But Skiller are more long game, a bit more like mass drivers for ECM.
It's harder for your opponent to do something clever and nullify Skiller. Whereas some people are very, very good at pre-measuring and doing stuff like that, and could just make it so your Jin are just out of range, and then they destroy them.
Yeah.
And then you've just lost your...
With the Jin as well, you're gambling on your opponent not having take the initiative. I fear take the initiative cards with Jin.
I played one against Ian's 4 Jin in our last game. He jumped across the table to take out my New Orleans that were going into the cluster. Was it a 4 cluster?
Yeah.
And I managed to seize the initiative and drop them into atmosphere. And then there was just Jin sat there in the middle of my fleet with nowhere to go.
That's what I worry about with taking ambush Jin units.
You had to course change and drop them into atmosphere to save them, otherwise they would have just been annihilated. They were sat in front of 2 cruisers.
Good reduction of the Jin, well done. Very tactical.
And for most of the game, they didn't do much after that.
No, there we go.
So it kind of neutralised them as a threat for a while. They did eventually obviously pop back up and kill something, but that was like an inevitable.
I faced 3 Jin in George's list in the final one, and they went after my troop ship, the Orpheus, but it had a Calypso shadowing it. And
it's a good way of nullifying.
Yeah, that helps a lot. If you knock the Jin to 3s to hit, that helps a lot. I think I killed 1 maybe with light caliber broadsides, and 2 of them jumped up and attacked, and with the Calypso pushing to 4s, they didn't do anything. Did like 2 damage.
It's a big difference between 3s and 4s.
Yeah.
I hate
Just to finish off Chris's list, so he also has a final group of 5 gargoyles, which is self-explanatory. I just wanted to note that brings his total launch for ground assets to 1 Chimera, 1 troop ship, and 8 strike carriers, which I would say is exactly right for Scourge lists of that kind. I think that's as much as you would go for. I think that's correct.
It'd be interesting to see in more detail how many sort of kill points he got with that fleet and how many critical location points relative to how many cluster points he got. Because for me, that looks a lot more like I'm going to kill loads of stuff in orbit and hold the orbit, but I might, in some cases, struggle on the ground because I've only got the 1 troop ship.
From what I could see looking over Chris's games, I think they were very destructive games on both sides.
I imagine they would be 2 Basilisks.
We may be able to come back and look up Chris's kill points from the Facebook page, but I don't have it to hand right now. And then JJ, do you want to go through the final list?
That's net list.
Which is my list!
So write a list of all the cheesy stuff you could put in a PHR list, and you'll probably just get this really, or you can just Google it and find a net list, and you'll just stumble across Matt's
I did
list
not
from 12
Google this
months
list.
ago.
Okay, I designed it fully thinking that no one had done this before, and then Will has shown me a post from a year ago with someone on the Hawk forum who'd made almost my exact list.
Yeah, to be fair, people haven't really put up lists since you started playing PHR. But as an old PHR hand, I looked at your list and went, "Oh, so you just went online and looked at lists because this is the list that everyone sort of has."
In honesty, I think Will should take this one because he knows PHR better than I do.
All right, fine.
I think
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
better for
I'll
him to take
talk
it.
about it then. So in Matt's net list, which he has named PHR Bell Party, so you could have 3 guesses about what he's based this list about. So to start off with, he's got an SR20 Vanguard group, which is 2 Bellerophons. Bellerophon is probably currently the strongest PHR ship because it's got a really powerful front pointy laser gun. It's got a launcher for PHR. Arguably have the best launch. Personally, I kind of rate the Scourge launch a little bit better because they got the extra range and scold, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. So the fact that Bellerophon's a heavy cruiser and is a bit slower doesn't really matter because its gun is front facing, and it's got launch.
That's not really even that important. It's the launch.
I think it's a combination of the two.
My rolling with the burn through lasers was very inconsistent. Against Michael, I didn't hit anything.
That's burn through lasers for you. That's what puts me off them. They're inconsistent.
But it's obviously the fear. They might do that 6 damage, so you need to make sure you're not in that narrow arc. But at the same time, you need to close as quickly as possible and put the damage on them to stop them from just launching every turn and starting wearing you away and still killing cruisers very quickly.
That's what's great about Bellerophon. I could miss with loads of burn throughs and it didn't matter because I could just launch the bombers.
Yeah. So that's very nice. Obviously, I assume that SR20 struggled a little bit in that distant approach.
Yeah, so I was playing Shaltari at that point, and they came on at the same time as the Diamond. I deliberately kept a Calypso and my Admiral Bellerophon back so that all 3 of them could fall into a little formation. And then that's quite good defensively. But I had to go and take on the 2 Ambers first with the 3 Bellerophon, and I took some damage but removed both Ambers. And then I lost a Bellerophon to the Diamond after that.
I suppose you only lost 1, because with you launching you should have minor spikes.
I was in amongst the debris.
Out activating your big 20 group.
I think at one point it fired through debris and the Calypso pushed it up as well. So I was trying to negate it as much as I could.
So I've been quite clever and like I'm going to hide a ship behind a debris field.
Yeah,
and
it
the
doesn't matter
Diamond
that
just
much.
killed it anyway. It's just really, but obviously the Calypso adding in is quite nice.
Yeah.
So your next battle group is an SR10, which is another Bellerophon, which brings us up to 3 Bellerophon and a launch of 12, which you put your Admiral in, which is just an AV3. I suppose you've only gone with an AV3 actually, because although a lot of the PHR command cards seem to boost up broadsides, so actually I can see why you've done that. They're not quite as important to this list.
Correct.
Yeah. So obviously you've put your Admiral in the lower one, so if needed he can escape, I assume.
He's on the table earlier too for cards.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So that takes away the same thing as a Bellerophon.
Should have put him on an Orpheus.
That is a tactic that I have thought about. It's quite a good tactic because you want the troop ship to survive and you want your fighting ships to be getting in there.
Big target though.
Yeah, troop ships get
target.
hit hard though.
Troop ship with an Admiral on it, I'll be going for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Can be quite a good trap though. You stick your troop ship quite far back, they come into your broadsides.
That
only works if you're using broadsides. Anyway, sticking with Matt's list, on to the next battle group, which is an SR7 line battle group. You've got a single Orpheus, a single Medea, and a single Calypso.
It's probably worth noting there's 2 of the same group.
There are 2 of these groups. I hadn't read that far down. I'm being a bit slow. So Orpheus, a lot of people rate this as the best troop ship. I kind of like having one of one and one of the other. But I can see why a lot of people think the Orpheus is the best because it's got the best guns out of the 2 and it's got that little front laser which can highlight a target for you for then something else to shoot at you. Surprised you've only got 1 Medea, but I assume that's just because you ran out of points.
It was just spreading them around. I wanted 6 overall, and I thought it's nice to have one acting with the troopship at least, because I figure the Orpheus needs one as backup if it's going to a cluster.
Thanks.
Yeah, to drop some tanks down alongside the men. Yeah, exactly.
Did you consider 2 Calypso instead of the Calypso and the Medea? Or so I've run it before, 2 Calypsos with 2 troop ships. Makes troop ships very, very hard to kill. It's a lot of points.
In a list that's already pushing some boundaries, I felt like I didn't want to drop down to 2 troop ships and 4 Medea, because I start to feel self-conscious that that's too little drop overall. I know an extra Calypso would give the Orpheus more defences, but I'd decided to take the little bit extra strike carrier drop.
For those who don't know, the Calypso has a special rule called ECM Suite, which adds 1 to the lock of 1 group that shoots at it per turn.
Yep.
Apart from that, it's got a crappy close action attack, which basically does nothing ever. It's just got its 1 trick, and that's it.
Just advice for killing Calypsos and getting rid of them, or drawing out their use, I think. I quite a nice tactic. I think you need to target the Calypsos first with like slightly smaller weapons, because then the PHR player has to decide whether to use up the Calypso's defences on keeping itself alive. Yeah. Launching small amounts of bombers at it, I think, is a good tactic.
Bombers, because its ECM Suite does not.
It doesn't work against bombers. Yeah. Using military guns to shoot them as well, whenever you can, if they're getting over the middle.
Yeah, I think technically it doesn't work on them. It's a bit of a question mark.
It probably wouldn't work on military gun either, would it?
It says ships.
Yeah.
I don't think a military gun counts as a ship.
Where possible, use something to hit the Calypso first, I would say. Get rid of it.
Or use multiple groups to kill whatever it's protecting. Sometimes works as well, if you've got the firepower left over.
If you have the firepower, yes.
So yeah, you've got the Orpheus for drop, the Medea for drop, and the Calypso to keep the Orpheus alive, and you've doubled up on that. Next you've got an SR4, which is just 4 Medea. Any reason you've gone for SR, just sticking 4 in a group on their own?
I can't remember. I don't think there's any particular massive reason why. You just need the strike carrier somewhere.
It looks like if you hadn't done that, if you put them with the troop ships, you would have not had enough battle groups. You would have only had 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Groups,
you need 6
to
battle
me
groups.
It looks like you had a group. You had an SR6 of 6 Medeas, and then you decided to take 2 of them out and split them across.
Spread them around. Ships. Yeah.
And then your final is 4 Echoes in a Pathfinder group.
Dirty PHR.
4's not. That's reasonable.
4's reasonable.
I hate Echoes.
Personally, I find multiples of 3 with Corvettes seem to work out quite well. Any particular reason you went for 4? Just had the points, or?
4 is enough that partly that I had the points. 4 is enough that you can all 4 will kill a strike carrier. And not only that, if you fire all 4 of the main guns at a different strike carrier, 8 shots hitting on 6s. Against Scourge in particular, if you can roll 2 6s, you've got a decent chance of crippling another strike carrier.
Yeah.
So the thinking was that I could put 8 shots on 6s into one strike carrier, and then the 12 close action into the other strike carrier.
Yeah. I use a similar trick myself, but I use 6 of them, so I can put 3 close action into one strike carrier, 3 into another, and if my opponent has... Normally people run them in pairs, but sometimes people run them in 3s. Someone's brought a 3rd strike carrier, I can then fire all the guns at it, which is 12 shots, which should hopefully kill a strike carrier.
They did really well at what they're supposed to do, which is to remove... I used them quite unconventionally actually in the first game against Michael. He had Andromeda and a Scipio as well. 3 Andromeda on their own.
I assume you used them to kill the Andromeda?
I basically had to exchange them for the Andromeda, yeah. So I did a first turn max thrust.
Seems like a good trade to me.
Second turn I used the Echoes to kill 2 out of the 3 Andromeda.
It's a 4 points exchange, but you're getting rid of...
It's a tactical exchange because I'm running a launch list, so I need as much of Michael's launch out the way. So I then outnumbered him. I had 12 to 4, 3 Bellerophons picking on the 1 Scipio. So that's a tactical reason.
That's the nice thing about the Echo, is that they've got that little bit of multi-roll with the gun on top. They can go for things in orbit a little bit better than other people's Corvettes, but they cost more points. So yin and yang.
Yeah.
And that's the end of your list. Was there anything that we've missed that you'd like to talk about in your list as you played it? There must be tips and tricks.
Very quickly, the Bellerophons taking the middle of the board works incredibly well. Because when they're in the middle, they're in 12-inch range of lots of things. The Calypsos, I hate to say this, but it really works a lot like an old 40k Death Star, because a lot of the time I use 3 Bellerophons with 2 Calypsos from the Orpheus groups trailing them, and then you put the Calypsos so they're in range of all 3 Bellerophons, and so if your opponent tries to fire at it, they've got to go through 2 Calypsos worth of defences, then start hitting a Bellerophon, of which there are 2 other Bellerophons really nearby. So it's a really hard nut to crack. So I sent that to the middle of the board most times.
Works even better if you have 4 Calypsos. Just saying, I've done it once. It was mean. I probably won't do it again.
Help him. That list is already ridiculous enough.
But yes, Bellerophons to the middle works well, a bit like taking the hill in the middle. And obviously the 2-up bomber launch is crazy good. I found myself the most dilemmas I had was splitting up the bombers to not overkill. Basically, I had enough launch that I'd be like, well, I know 12 is going to kill that. So what's the minimum I can get away with that will probably kill that cruiser? So it's just managing like the resource that you have to be as effective as possible. That was one of the harder bits. But yeah, that Bellerophon list is very good. I don't think it has its weaknesses, but
it's quite hard to take advantage of them
while trying to do other things as well.
Because you don't have any arcs that people can hide in, because the launch just goes anywhere, it goes backwards. Debris fields can have an effect on launch, but it can be very random.
Yeah.
I assume nobody debris dived against you either, like course changed and went through debris just to get rid of all those launch.
Yeah, some did. Adam did it with a Shatari Mother, with an emerald course corrected into a fine debris field.
With the shields up, presumably.
Yes, definitely with the shields up.
Yeah.
That worked fairly well.
I did it with my Ruby in the game against Ian when he bombed that. I put shields up, flew it straight into a course change into a fine debris field. Scraped all the bombers off.
Nice.
That's why you don't dump all of your bombers on one thing. You
No.
try and spread them out, and then if someone does that, it's taking loads of damage on their ships anyway. So,
I think that's about it, really.
Yeah. We've run out of things to talk about.
And we're about bang on time as well. So, thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about those lists and the tactics behind them. Try out some of those tactics if you want in your own games, or try imitating some of the lists or parts of it. Again, get in contact on the Scans Offline page if you have any questions, and join us again for episode 6, where we will be talking pretty much exclusively about our new experimental errata and our new Red Warsock tournament pack. Any last words, gentlemen?
We said copy people's lists, don't copy Matt's list. Experiment, try different things.
Yeah, please don't copy Matt's list. We don't want to encourage that kind of unspoiled content.
Use broadsides. Broadsides are more fun.
Challenge yourself to win with PHR without launch.
Done that. Been there, done that.
Or to win
We'll
with
probably
UCM.
carry on doing it. All winning with you. I'd like to see some more UCM players come higher. That'd be nice.
Yes. Don't forget, get your ticket for Maelstrom 2. Hopefully we will see you there. If you're listening to us and you're in the UK, we expect you to be there. Don't let us down.
And you can beat Matt.
Yes. No, well, I may not be playing. I may be an extra.
Oh, yeah,
but you can definitely beat JJ.
Join the long list.
Aww.
See you next time.